Oh, finally, we're live.
We're
We're live.
live! Hi,
We're
everyone.
on mom time, okay? It's a few minutes. It always takes us an extra few minutes because
You know
we
what?
forget
2 minutes is like the buffer for moms. That's just what it is.
Exactly.
We've got to say hi to each other first. All right. I'm super excited to have Arianne here with us this week. You guys, Arianne is a rock star. Her company is in Pensacola, Florida, Glass Time, which I think is so much fun to say. And I love the colors. And she has built just quite an amazing empire there with her fixing and flipping and her wholesaling. What I think is really, really awesome about what they're doing is with their finances and with multifamilies and over and long-term wealth building. I think we have so much that we can learn from that. And I'm just so excited to hear, what you have to say about it and your whole story and how we can learn from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that awesome insight. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Tell the audience kind of about your real estate journey.
Yeah.
Our real estate journey. Well, I'm super honored to be on Moms of Real Estate. I know I'm a future mom, so thanks for still putting me on here. So I guess I'll go, since we're talking about finances, I'll kind of start from like my financial background, right? So like growing up, money was really tight for us as a family, and my mom and dad were always stressed about money. And so there were just a lot of like kind of negative ideas about money, like maybe I couldn't ever get money or like that kind of stuff. And what we did have a financial plan growing up, right? Like I think all of us were taught this, where you're supposed to get good grades, get into a good school, get a good job, and make good money. So we did that. And we were also told to like spend less than what you make, save the money, open a retirement account, and then work, and then retire someday. So that was financial.
That sounds familiar.
Right? And it was interesting because I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. We're going to do this. So we did it. And then life happened. So let's backtrack a little bit. I was born in the Philippines. My parents and I and my siblings moved to New Zealand. And then I met my amazing husband, Chris, who lives in Florida. So I moved to Florida. And when we got married and moved to the US, I was just fresh out of school and I had like a master's degree. So I had like student loan debt. And so Chris married my student loan debt. So we had like $50,000 in debt, right? So that's how it started. And this kind of segues into my intro to real estate too. Because after about a year of working our jobs, I was a speech language pathologist. Chris was a software developer. And we were living the dream, right? Like we both had nice, good paying professions. So we followed the plan, got good jobs, make good money. And then after a year of that, we were like, wait, hold on. There's something wrong with this plan. Because we were planning on having kids. And we were thinking, well, when we have kids, how will they ever see like their other set of grandparents? Because they live in New Zealand, right? And then how will they see their other set of great grandparents? Because they live in the Philippines. And they were like, oh, wait, hold on. There's a big problem here. This financial plan did not work out for us. And now we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. So that's when we started looking into real estate. We were just like, man, we're in debt. We make good money, but we can't do what we want to do, which is see our family and have kids and all that kind of stuff. And we were just like, let's start looking for something else. And so we looked for all the other like passive income sources, right? Because that's usually how you retire earlier. So when we're in that time, we were like, okay, I can't have this job that doesn't let me leave and go to visit our family anymore. So what do I do? But I also spend like lots and lots of money getting into debt to get this job. So we looked at how do I retire earlier? And we looked at stocks and all the other stuff. And then we looked at real estate. Chris's dad at that time had rentals, so it was like a little bit more familiar. And so we said, okay, that's the plan. We're going to buy rentals, get enough rentals to replace like half of my income so I can at least work half the time and start having kids and all that good stuff. And so we started down that path, and then we saw that was going to take us a long time, right? If all we did was save the money we were saving and invest that into rentals, like it was going to take us like, I don't know, 15 years. something crazy.
Which is still much faster than the typical like 30 to retirement.
Yeah, that is still amazing. Like 15 years. Wow. But we were like, I don't want to have kids when I'm, that age. So we still looked for other things, and we got into flipping houses, and I replaced an active income with another active income, right? Which is flipping houses. So I'm no longer a speech language pathologist. I just flip houses. And that's where I met you guys, actually. We joined a mastermind group of other house flippers and wholesalers that the goal is to make the job of flipping houses into a business of flipping houses. And that's where we are now on that side. But
Can I pause and ask some follow-up questions at this point in your story? Okay, so one of the things that I love about you and Chris is you're not
all of the things.
All the things. I love all the things about you and Chris. You guys are not your typical real estate investor people who are like, I'm going to get into this because I want to make billions of dollars because I like to spend a lot of money. Like, you guys are super frugal people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed this dichotomy as well among how you think about the goal of real estate investing versus how other people think about real estate investing?
I think it depends. I think in the groups I'm part of and some of the groups you're part of, like, a lot of the people don't really want to buy all the big things and have that as the goal of real estate. I have met some people who are like, I want like $100 million and that's the goal, right? That's fine. Maybe you have something you want to do with $100 million. But a lot of the people I have met are more people who want the freedom and want the time with their family and friends and all of that.
And then my other question is, you essentially, I mean, all of us you nailed it. We're the status quo idea of what success looks like. I mean, you're brainwashed. Not brainwashed. I don't think it's wrong that society gives you this clear path for life. I think that's okay. Like, what was it like to actually step off that path? Like, what were your kind of doubts and fears when you were like, we could leave these two stable jobs or do this thing?
It was really scary, right? Because up until that point, all of our role models just did that, right? Like, we had our parents who were also both working professionals who were working until they were going to retire, and everybody we knew was going down that path. So it was really scary to think about, because it was like, if you thought about like a path, that path was blank, right? There was no road there. It was like, I felt like I was stepping off of a cliff, and who knows where we're going to go. And it's great. There was actually a plane that, after I stepped off the cliff, there was a plane and we went up. But before that, I didn't really know what was going to happen. I just saw like little bits of pieces of other people who said that it was possible. But it was still scary because I didn't really know people who did it until we joined some of the mastermind groups and saw and felt and hugged and talked to people who did already do that. So,
what did your family say? I'm sorry, Steph.
What I think, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I think what was really interesting about what you and Chris did is that you really sat down and had a financial plan of how to get out of that $50,000 worth of debt. You did it really, really fast. And I'm pretty sure you did it much faster than Zach and I did. I think you paid it off, a couple of years before we were able to overcome our grad loans debt. So I think I'd love to hear like what exactly your plan was and how long it took you to get to break even and then surplus. And what I also like that you've described before to us is the comfort zone, the stretch zone, and what was the other zone called?
Like abundance
zone. I think I just love your whole philosophy around that. So I'd just love to like hear some details on how you did it and then how you staged each different zone that you and Chris went into.
Yeah. So thankfully, Chris and I kind of started on a similar thought process about money, that we didn't really like spending that much. So that was really good because I know sometimes that's different from different couples, right? But we did still have a lot of issues in the beginning because, we were newlyweds. We didn't live before we were married. So this was like living with a new person and then starting both of our jobs, we both started about a year from each other. So we were still like figuring out who we were as career people, right? And then we were also trying to figure out, hey, there's finance stuff too that we need to figure out between the two of us. And it didn't we didn't just say, hey, let's sit down and talk about it, and that's going to be it. Kind of happened gradually. We just started talking about what did we want our future to look like. We have this massive amount of debt we really didn't want to start investing until we got that off of our shoulders because it was kind of high interest too. I think it was like 8%. So we really figured out what can we do to get rid of that as fast as possible so we can start investing, because we really wanted kind of a clean slate. And we just started with like a little, I wouldn't say little stuff, but just we kind of made it a game of, hey, how much more can we save this month? I remember there's like a really funny story about soda. So, we were both college grads. So like Chris's diet for college was pizza and soda, which is great, right?
Was it Mountain Dew?
Yes.
Because every developer I know basically subsists off of Mountain Dew.
Right, like he would survive off of Mountain Dew, and sometimes he wouldn't even eat pizza, just Mountain Dew. But anyway, so he drank, I think, 12 cans of Mountain Dew a day. So like that whole pack. And so we were like, okay, Chris, this is really expensive.
Okay, and you guys don't know what Chris looks like, but he's like very skinny. Very skinny.
And that's the interesting too about like marriage, right? Like both of you spend money on stuff. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's small stuff. Like even the Mountain Dew, really, it's kind of small, right? Like by expensive, it was like $7 a day. And then I was spending stuff on, I think it was like Starbucks. I'll buy like Starbucks, right? So we both kind of just came together and said, look, right now we're saving, let's say $1,000 a month. And to get to wiping out our $50,000 goal, we need to increase that by $2,000 to $3,000 a month, right? Like to wipe it out in about a year and a half maybe. And so we just started like looking at every single thing that we can remove. And I think like some of the big stuff are easy, right? Like cable, like we had like a cable subscription, didn't really need it. We had all these random subscriptions that we didn't use, so we trimmed that down. And then after we trimmed down like the easy stuff that we didn't miss, like we knew for sure we didn't miss, then we started looking at some of the things we thought we would miss and saw if we would actually miss it. So like the Mountain Dew story is interesting because first we just talked about, hey, what about instead of buying you a 12-pack of Mountain Dew, we buy you like one of those liter things of Mountain Dew, right? So now we're going from like $7 a day to $2 a day or $1 a day. And then he was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I drink it at home anyway. I work from home. I think that's going to work. So we did that. So we shaved, like
$150.
Yeah, $150 a month. And then from that, we were starting to try and get a little bit healthier too. So we were like, well, why don't, I asked him, what do you like about the Mountain Dew? He's like, well, it keeps me awake, right? So I can focus. Okay, well, what's another drink you like? He's like, I like sweet tea too. And so we were like, well, could we maybe substitute that with sweet tea? So it was slightly healthier. Okay, so now we're buying sweet tea instead of Mountain Dew. And then after a while, we started talking, like we were still like kind of focused on, okay, what else can we trim? What else can we trim? Because we weren't like trying to take on like another job at that point. We were just new grads, right? What else can we trim from our budget? And when the drinks came again, we were saying, well, instead of buying a gallon of sweet tea a day, can we make sweet tea? So we started making sweet tea, and now it was like 20 cents a day or something, right? For whatever the tax cost.
I think the thing that I love about this too is you and I have talked about, I went through Financial Peace University 2 years ago or a year ago, and I hadn't looked at my expenses at that level, like with that granularity until that. And I would guess for you guys, it all started with tracking every single, like paying attention to every single thing you spend money on, which is so easy with your card to just be like $3, $5, not a big deal.
Yeah. So we started like before we started trimming everything, right? Like we would look at our credit card statements and our bank statements and look at what did we spend money on this month and kind of categorize it and mark things off with like needs. These are all of our needs. Like we can't not have power, we can't not have internet, right? And then what are our wants, right? Mountain Dew was a want. Starbucks was a want. And we kind of just stick it up all the wants. And then once we figured out what the wants were, we asked ourselves, like, is this want like essential to our like well-being? Like, does it make us like super happy to go out and have a date, right? Yes, it did. So we kept doing our little dates, right? But him drinking the Mountain Dew, it wasn't really like he just wanted something to stay awake. Like that's really all he wanted. So we started figuring out ways to reduce that cost while still having him stay awake. The funny thing is, after we started making the sweet tea, at some point we just didn't want to make it anymore. So because it took some time, so he just started drinking water. So he went to water, which is a lot healthier anyway. So
I think what's really profound about this is that this is basically a common thread in all the millionaires that we know, people that are super successful. The first step is getting your personal overhead down, right? You don't just like become a millionaire, right? And then have all this overhead. People reduce down to this level, like Becca said, to this granularity, like what are we spending money on? What don't we have to spend money on? And cutting expenses. And it sounds like so obvious. Oh, if you want to make more money, just, cut your expenses. But it's not, because we're programmed that we need to work more hours and get paid more per hour. And that's how you get money, not necessarily reducing overhead. So I just wanted to point that out for our listeners, is that this is literally the most common thread of getting ahead and getting out of debt and getting, into abundance, is looking at your personal overhead and reducing it down.
And also, I feel like with that initial mindset that we talked about, like this is the path through your life, the idea is like, as you get promoted and as you get raises, you spend more, you get a nicer car, you get a bigger house, but you don't have to do that. And I think by going the real estate investing route, you start questioning all these preconceived notions of what success in the future looks like.
Yeah, that's a really hard, I wouldn't say a trap, but like the momentum goes that way, right? You make more money, therefore I spend more money. Like I deserve this. This feels good. I should do this, right? But who said that? Mm-hmm. Like who said that?
Yeah. Like who said that? Nina Ferraro just said yes to all of this.
And it doesn't mean that you can't go out and do these things, right? Like go out and buy, but buy what you can afford and get into a period of abundance before you then take on a big overhead expense, instead of the other way around. Like we want to just be quick, we're like, we got that American, we want to like show everybody that we're successful right out of the gate. And I'm showing my success by all my fancy things that I have, right? Meanwhile, like the overhead is crushing, and now you have to work and you have to do things in order to pay those bills, So I don't want to, I like nice cars and I like nice vacations. I'm still on one. But the idea is that you get to that abundance phase first, right. Then you do these things.
Yes. Tell us more about, I'm sorry, Keely.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, tell us more about the comfort, stretch, abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once we found out about this super awesome thing called passive income, right? Where your money can work for you without you spending any time. Like the money works while you sleep, while you're on vacation at the lake. And that was just like mind blown. Like, okay, hold on. Like I don't have to trade my time for money. And really, what's your time? It's your life. You're trading your life for money. So once that shift happened, we just wanted to stop that. We wanted to stop trading our life for money. Because what's money for, right? Like money's supposed to help you live anyway. So that didn't make sense. It didn't compute. So we started looking for ways to, after we got out of debt, how do we make money work for us so that passive income, the money that's generated without any of our time, how does that exceed what we need to survive. So that's our first level, right? Like the survival level. Like the passive income has to pay for all of our needs, which is shelter, food, and all the necessary expenses like health and all that kind of stuff. And then we have comfort, which is all the stuff that we need, plus most of the stuff we want. So comfort would be I don't have to go to a nice steakhouse and order chicken because I'm looking at a $60 steak and a $30 chicken meal, right? So that's kind of where like our comfort is. We can afford to do like the activities, like when we have kids, activities the kids want without having to worry about where it's going to come from actively, right? The passive income pays for that. And then we have abundance, which for us is like $10,000 more than what we need for comfort. So it'll still depend on your lifestyle, but doing all that, like now our passive income is more than what I used to make a year when I was working like a minimum dollar wage a month, right? So like that's like, it's crazy. I would never have imagined that that would happen like 10 years ago when I was still working that minimum dollar an hour wage job. But it's just amazing how fast it goes, because once you get to that comfort and abundance level, like you really can't spend it. I mean, I could, I guess, if I really, tried to live away. But it's
Chris showed me a catamaran boat that.
Yes, we actually talked about his catamaran boat, and we were like, okay, how much passive income do we need to pay for your catamaran boat? But that's how we talk about everything now. Like, if you want this, we need to generate more passive income.
I love the way you think, Ari. It's just, you think about, okay, you want a catamaran boat. So how am I going to pay for it? You don't just automatically take out the credit card and you're like, cha-ching, I got a catamaran boat and I'll figure out how to pay for it. You thought about that first. And I'm going to go back because I need to go back to what makes you happy. Who told us all that all these things are supposed to make us happy? So I love the way that your mind works, Ari, and I think a lot of people could learn from the mentality that you have around money, the healthy mentality that you have around money. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's dive a little bit deeper into how you started switching your mindset into passivity, because flipping and wholesaling, it's a job. It's another job, and it's a stressful job. And how did you make that jump from being completely immersed into this job and into going more the passive route?
So, for a while, I think for two or 3 years, we just kind of did the flipping thing. Like we bought one rental or 2 rentals, but we kind of got so focused into building this wholesaling business because that was supposed to become passive, right? And then here we go 6 years later, and it's kind of passive, but still pretty active. It's somebody else's active, right, job now to manage our business, but there's still we still have to kind of manage it really. But anyway, after a couple years of doing the flipping and wholesaling business, we just I think it just hit us sometime. I can't really tell when, but it was hold on. We said we wanted to not trade our time for money. But this whole business is kind of centered on trading time for money. And even when we replace ourselves, it's somebody else trading their time for money. And when we talked about that, we just said, look, we'll go back to what we said we would do in the beginning and buy rentals. Because for that, there's an actual asset that is worth something that generates money instead of people and systems trading their time for money. Because at some point, we all have to invest in assets that just generate money without, I know there's property managers and all that, right? A tenant moves in, but the asset itself, just by existing, generates that income, not necessarily people having to trade their time for money, which is what a business is.
I don't know. I agree with that, though. I'm thinking about this because if you have, I have rentals, right? And there's somebody has to manage them. Somebody has to maintain them. They're not completely passive, but they do keep growing. If you maintain them well, they appreciate. I think the appreciation to me is probably the the biggest benefit to rentals is like, it is kind of a business as you run it. You have to pay attention to your assets. You have to review your portfolio. You have to make sure that the property management company is doing well. Like, you still have to manage them. But where it works is that it grows. And you're paying down the principal if you have a loan on them.
So I'm going to interject a little bit, because in large multifamily, there's different ways you can invest. So the way Ari invests is a couple of different ways, actually. But she's also, like, for instance, in a couple of properties that Jason and I had, Ari and Chris are passive investors, completely passive. All they need to do is review the spreadsheets that we send them, the calls that we have, and that's just responsible. But besides that, they're completely passive. They don't have to worry about the management, although if they ever have a question, they can ask us. Ari and I, you know what? Why don't you explain this? You are also in large multifamily.
I'm also salty because I have a mailbox full of like rental stuff that I have to do that I'm not wanting to do right now. So
only rentals.
Becca, we'll talk about that after.
Only rentals, we classify it as semi-passive.
Fair.
Because like if you're the asset manager and you have to acquire your rental, right? So you're the acquisitions person, and then once you buy it, you become the asset manager of it, and that's still a job, right? So it's semi-passive. You have kind of high-paying jobs, which is acquisitions and asset management, but they're still jobs. Whereas if you invest in kind of what Peely's doing, right? Like we invest with them, and they're the asset manager and they're the acquisitions people. All I really do is vet them, make sure I'm investing in the right group that I know is, if things hit SHIT hits the fan, they're gonna like work double, triple time and like make everything right. It's like that. That's the biggest part. But then all I do is vet them. I vet the deal, right? And then I invest money with them. And then really I just get checks every quarter, which is awesome. It's my favorite investments ever when I'm actually fully active. And then on the rentals, we own 100% ourselves. Like Chris is actually the asset manager, so I'm still mostly passive. So I like those two. But yes, there is work that goes into that. It's semi-passive.
I mean, I don't know that there's anything that truly exists where you just get a check. You know what I mean? Like, and don't have to pay attention to anything. And if you're in a position like that where you just get money and don't pay attention, you're probably losing money, right? So I think what it boils down to too is like, what do you think is easy? What do you like? And how little time and little, brain energy do you need to spend on it to get it, right? So like if you have to spend an hour of brain energy a month on reviewing your assets and you enjoy it, then that to me that's completely passive, right? Like I'd spend an hour of day on TikTok, you know what I mean? So spending a little bit of time reviewing your assets and talking to people that you like talking to and doing something you enjoy doing for a very finite period of time where you can do anywhere, that to me is what I consider passive.
Man, you just made me feel so guilty because that rental paperwork has been sitting there and I've probably spent about 10 hours on TikTok.
You are pretty awesome at TikTok. Whoever's not following Becca needs to follow Becca. She had a tutu on. It was funny.
I'm making myself a rule. No TikToks until I do that paperwork.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Paperwork, right? Like make a nice video about you doing
of the paperwork.
TikTok of your paperwork.
No, but I think that's a good segue to like what Peely asked earlier, right? Like the mindset and the thinking around money and even passive and active income, right? Like Stephanie said, like she enjoys doing that. Like I think that's something in life that I think we got taught at some point, but we forgot, and then we have to relearn, right? Like we actually should do things we like and love and are passionate about. And when we do that, things don't feel like work. And then work goes faster too, right? Like, so if you don't enjoy those kind of things, maybe find somebody who does and then do something they don't like. And Chris and I aren't the best example of this because we both don't like talking to people that much. And we both like analyzing stuff. But there's still things like I prefer the sales leads better. And he likes putting together like graphs and numbers better. And we both can do it, but I kind of enjoy sales more and he enjoys the graphs and underwriting more. So instead of us trying to do, like, because now I'm in the multifamily space too. Instead of both of us doing underwriting and finding deals, we're trying to figure out how he can mostly do underwriting, and maybe I can mostly talk to the partners we're trying to partner with on the multifamily side.
Right.
Yeah.
So just find things that you're happier with, and life just becomes happier and easier and all that kind of stuff.
I heard a dad overheard a conversation where a dad was talking to his son about work and money and things, and he said, you know, you don't find the job that you love. You find a job that pays you the most money, and then your hobbies is what you love. And I was like, no, stop. Don't do it. I wanted to interject and be like, no, just find the work that you love. Find the work that you love, and then make it, and make it worth it, right? Like, why do you love it? Because you're good at it, because of this, because of that, right? Like, you can absolutely work and love it, and then have fun hobbies too, right? But it's just that mindset thing, like, working is for money and not for anything else. I don't necessarily, it doesn't matter if I'm good at it or whatever. I just need to do it and grind, right? I hate that so much.
But sometimes you also don't know what you love until you try things. Like, Arianne, you were looking for an avenue of passive income. I don't think you knew that you would grow to love real estate, and yet I also don't see you guys ever really stepping away from it. It seems like it brings you joy, right? So
yeah, but it's a little bit of both, right? Like, so I loved speech language pathology, and I love working with people and my clients and helping them achieve, whatever success looked like, whether it was we can learn how to say R's, or we can eat again after a stroke, right? So I love that. And then in real estate, I loved seeing people get from where they are to where they want to be. So there's kind of like similar themes. And I think as you just go along in life, you'll see this is I like this theme a lot better. It's like a different spin on what I used to do, but I'm good at it, right? So that's kind of why I think some of you saw we're starting this financial freedom education, coaching, membership, whatever it's going to be. It's still up in the air. But it was just as we went through this journey, I saw the things I struggled with, and there's this financial plan, but it stops when you begin life, right? The financial plan that all of us get stops when we start working. And then we have another 40, 50, 60 years to live. And nobody kind of gives you another framework to look at, right? That framework's fine too, but some people. And
then you see the people who hit retirement at 60, 65, and they stop working, and they don't know what to do. They're like, now what? I could just, anyway, we've got some comments here that I wanted to just give shout outs for. Rachel Benton, one of our new 7-figure flipping members. Hey, Rachel, she said, so refreshing to hear other women passionate and educated on the top of real estate and investing. Rachel, we appreciate you. There's a lot more here. So much knowledge. And this guy, Chris Lemire, said, helps if you get to the comfort level of passive income, so it doesn't matter how well doing what you love pays.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate you.
And I have a Suki who I went to high school with. She says hello. She is a mama and she's amazing. And I also have Michelina, who I'm actually doing an interview. She is an awesome stager here in New Jersey. So thank you for the shout outs, ladies.
Arianne, Wealth Gym, your coaching. Talk a little bit more. I know you're still finalizing the details, but let's talk about your new passion project.
Yeah.
What have you got so far?
I love feedback on it. So what we're really trying to create is more like this movement, right? This new awareness of, life doesn't have to be what we were all taught growing up, where you just get a job and you work till forever, and then maybe you retire, or maybe not, right? Because right now, I'm not sure if 90% of the people out there really know when they're going to retire, or if feel confident that that's going to happen, right? It doesn't have to be that way. There are other options, and you can actually structure your plan so that you don't plan to retire at 60 or 40 or 50, whatever. You can structure it with whatever you want, right? So for us, we structured it we wanted to retire in 10 years and semi-retire in 5. And we just figured out our plan of what we're going to do to get there. And we found other people who wanted to get there too. And we kind of just like bounce ideas off each other and held each other accountable. And then we got there a lot sooner than we thought we would ever. And we reached the abundance level a lot faster than we thought we would. But it kind of just starts with that snowball effect. So really that's what we're trying to create, just this new wave of thinking that is accessible to more and more people. And this really came from, so last year we were away for like 4 months out of the year, spending time with family and some business trips and all that. And we visited our family in Australia, New Zealand, and we spent some time in Hawaii a little bit. And in Australia,
really pushing for New Zealand.
Yes, we need to
that place.
New Zealand. It's beautiful. I don't have a virtual background right now, but my virtual background is usually New Zealand. But anyway, our friend invited us to their church, and they were raising money for these orphans. And I think they started with like a goal of 50 kids, and there were still 10 kids who were like waiting for a sponsor. And we were at that time we were still on vacation, right? And we were like, we can help support those kids, and we did. But then something hit me. Then it was like we're living this life of abundance, and we can support causes that we want to. But what if it wasn't just us? What if we can help support 10 people have the ability to support 10 kids if they wanted to, or 100 people, or 1,000 people, or 1,000,000 people, right? And I'm sure there's other causes they want to support that's not just this. Now the thing is you have to start with like the comfort, like you have to take care of you first, right? Like some people probably can't even fathom, supporting 10 kids right now, if you're listening. Like maybe you're like, I need to support my family first. Like I don't even have passive income to support our needs. And I'm worried that if in a few months something happens with the economy and I lose my job, I don't know what to do, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. Like we can help other people create this blueprint and plan for themselves and help them get there, and they can have that abundance. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure you think about like your kids and the world they're growing up in. And a lot of people say how the world is getting crazier, right? Like we need to counteract that somehow. We're going to do something to help the world be better, right? Okay, it's going to go crazy at one direction, whatever. We're just going to do our part and figure out our way to help the world go the better direction. And hopefully our efforts are more than the other side.
So tell us some of the key principles that you're going to cover in Wealth Gym.
So that's the thing. It sounds so simple, right? Like, so one of the principles is doing a check-in or like a weigh-in each and every month at least, where you look at all of your income, your active income, you look at all of your expenses, and you categorize them into wants. And then you look at your passive income, and we're going to focus on growing that, right? So that's the main thing, like having this picture of what your financial life looks like all on one sheet, like a spreadsheet. And then we're going to focus on optimizing your income. So increase your active income where you can. And sometimes there's ways to increase it where you don't really even have to increase it. Like it's not that much more effort to increase the income, right? Like for example, like I know someone who they're renting out their, actually we do that too, but we rented out our business, our garage. We rented our garage to our business, and they pay us like $150 a month for storage. So we increased it's kind of passive, but we increased our income just by finding something that we weren't using a whole lot of, which is our garage, and renting it to a business that pays us $150 a month for space in our garage. So there's ways where you can optimize your income where it doesn't really add that much of your time. And then we also are going to help people optimize their expenses. Like there's just so many things that people spend money on that they're not going to miss. And sometimes a different change in mindset will help people like drastically increase their savings just by finding those little pieces.
It's so loud, together.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I love it, Arianne.
And then the last
awesome.
side is the investing, right? Like what to invest in, how do you vet the different areas you're going to invest in, what are some more active ways you can invest, and some more passive ways you can invest. But the magic we're trying to create isn't so much the knowledge, right? Because all of these things, we've heard a lot of these, right? Like in YouTube somewhere, we've heard like the bits and pieces, but it's really more putting it together and providing that place for accountability and a place to kind of work on your financial muscles. So that's why we call it Wealth Gym, right? It's more of a place, a community, like your tribe, to help you grow your financial muscles, whether you're just starting out on the journey or you're already way along the way and you maybe want to help more people like get there and help increase your passive income to abundance or abundance plus, abundance plus, abundance plus yacht.
Plus yacht, plus catamaran.
I think it's so great because there really aren't many places or many resources where people can talk openly about this kind of stuff and have actual strategies on what for them specifically. You know, there's a lot of different principles out there you can follow, a lot of books you can read on it, but like, what should I do? Right?
Yeah. So we do have to get wrapping up, and Peely actually just lost power.
Oh,
Welcome
no.
to the Northeast right now. I actually was out without power for a couple of days this week myself. So that hurricane somehow hit New England.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys got it, Stephanie. So
we weren't bad in North Carolina, but then here where I am now, no, there's nothing, just a little rain.
Arianne, where can people find out more about Wealth Gym?
So you can go to wealthgym.com and email me at ari@wealthgym.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for it's just been a pleasure. I mean, all you ladies, getting to know you over the past couple of years. And I say this all the time, but like there was a point in my life where I didn't realize it, but I had stopped thinking that I would make really good friends. You know, like after college, you kind of assume you're in kids and school and whatever. And I just have been so blessed with the opportunity to meet you guys and hang out with you and know that there are more amazing people out there.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. And it, like you said, Becca, it has been awesome just meeting amazing friends, amazing women who are empowered and want to create a better life for themselves and a better life for their kids and a better life for everybody around them. So love hanging out with you ladies, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you everybody for watching.
Now we have to figure out if we know how to stop this without Peely. End live. I don't think we can end it. Let's just leave the studio and see what happens.
All right. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.